Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. This episode is brought to you by 40 Accounting. 40 Accounting is designed to help small to mid-sized businesses actually understand what their numbers are. It's from bookkeeping, financial reporting analysis, and even your taxes. If you want to learn more, go to 40accounting.com. Really excited to have with us today. We had a super fun talk before this. I'm going to have to start recording the pre-episodes at some time, because sometimes honestly the best insights come from that. But we have Marley Majcher with us today. She's the CEO of the Party Goddess, with an exclamation point, which I love. A nationally acclaimed full service event planning and catering company based in LA, where she has the top stars be in her program. But one of my most fun and most interesting things that she does is she has a book, and we're going to talk a lot about this today about, but I love this, but are you making any money? And so we'll hit on that. And she's really not only leading expert in event production, being an entrepreneur, and earning praise from, she's been talked about from Forbes, et cetera, multiple different outlets. Marley, welcome to the Measure Success podcast.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to be here. And I feel like I already know you since we just had such great chat ahead of time. I was like, that's the VIP ticket you should sell, because that's where all the dirt happens in the little recall there. Just saying. But
No, it is. It is one of these days. I'm just going to go live. We're just going to go. And, this is what we do. And so Marley, for those who don't know who you are, right, and maybe the first time going through this, give people just kind of that brief summary overview of who you are, what you do beyond just the bio that we just mentioned.
yeah. Okay, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm from Pasadena, California. And I say that because growing up in Pasadena, to me, was like growing up, like my friends grew up in Connecticut. Like it was like the perfect little idyllic world, you know? And then I had my sights set on going to Georgetown. So I went to Georgetown and got my business degree there. And I say that also because you would think, okay, I would come out of Georgetown, which is like one of the top schools in the country. And obviously studying business, I should know how to do business when I got out of it. But I struggled, like a lot of entrepreneurs, with putting into practice things that might be common sense or that you might know. So I'm not going to get into the whole story, but I ended up marrying a chef who was 20 years older than I was, that I met while I was at Georgetown, and came back to Pasadena and got into the restaurant business. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like you talked about goals, and I set $1 million sales goal. I was like, I'm going to do that my first year. I was only 22 years old. And I was like, yeah, okay, guess what? I hit the goal. But even if you don't go to business school, you know that you can't have 1.1 in expenses and do $1 million and then think you knocked it out of the park. But yours really was like, oh, check the box, right? I sort of forgot a little piece of that. And so then, and here's the thing, and this is in the days before like reality TV and all that stuff. So we were getting all this press, and it was a great story, right? It was like this guy who was 20 years older than I was, and here I met him at Georgetown. I brought him back and blah, blah, blah. And it was all about, on the outside, everything looked so amazing. Here's this young entrepreneur. She's setting these goals, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I had this dirty little secret, which was that I couldn't figure out how to apply what I learned in business school to my actual business. And then you hear all these stories of like, you hire your friend to do this, you hire your so-and-so, not based on skill set, I made honest to God every freaking mistake you possibly could make, and then more. Well, then, I got into financial trouble in the restaurant. Thank God we owned the land, and I still do. And it turned out, bless everybody, to be the best business investment I ever made. But I almost bankrupted my family, in the process, which is not a great thing. And so I end up having a child while we're in the restaurant business, because I'm thinking, and that's obviously going to make it better. Like, I don't know if I thought I was going to pimp him out for sales or what, but nothing like being totally stressed out. And then like, oh, now I'm a new mother and I work 24 hours a day, and I'm just going to put him in front of the cappuccino machine, because if he cries, like not that many people will hear. And by now my marriage is on the rocks, big shocker. And have this really bad skiing accident. So now we have like every problem under the sun. I'm in a brace up to my top of my leg. I'm in physical therapy. My dad is like, this is insane. Why don't you just focus on events, which is what you love, and cut a deal? Because we were getting approached to partner up with the restaurant. And I was like, no, because I'm going to look like I failed. I mean, just hilarious, because to everybody else, they're like, you look like you failed a very long time ago, but we'll put that aside. So I did cut that deal. I went off and I started the Party Goddess. And guess what? The reason my book is called But Are You Making Any Money is because I was chasing the same things with the Party Goddess, which was sales or clients, or I want to get in these magazines, like great goals as long as you have the basics set up. And I still didn't. And so one night at dinner, my dad, I was like, oh, and then we just did the opening of the Hollywood Bowl, and or we were going to, and oh, we're doing this party for Britney Spears. And my dad is like, and I just knew it. I was like, "Oh, man, here it comes." And he's like, "But are you making any money?" And
Mm,
it's such a basic, simple question, right? But I was like, "Well, based on, like depreciation." And he's like, "Marley, we're not doing an EBITDA conversation here. Like, what are you depreciating, by the way? Martinis? What exactly depreciates in your business right now?" And like, he's like, "How much did you make last month? How much is in your checking account?" And I was like, the tears were just like
mm.
crocodile tears at the very top, and I was like, "Please don't cry, please don't cry," because I knew if I cried, I was never gonna stop, and I was like, "This is the last time I am gonna have this conversation where I don't know where my money is, how much I make on each project." I'm like, "I'm done, I'm just over this story." But at the time, there weren't books like mine. I'm still going to say there aren't books like mine, but where an entrepreneur or somebody who could be super smart, right? As a lawyer, as a million other things, but then you go to start your business and you just need like the basics. Like, how do I start from here to here to here? How do I know what my profit is? How do I know what my overhead percentage is versus my profit? How do I know how many clients I need to serve? Like, not what a $1 billion business would do, but me in my home office doing this. How do I start and how do I set up my pricing? And ultimately, I went on to write this book and then coach other entrepreneurs who were, they thought more challenged than I was, but really, I think I'm still the most challenged. And everybody comes to me thinking they're a train wreck. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're not by any stretch.
That's a great story, first of all. I mean, just it's fascinating, though. This is what your story is super common.
Yep.
And not the exact story, of course,
No,
right?
the skeleton of it, the anatomy of it, it's like a paint by numbers, unfortunately.
Literally, what you're talking is like, because I'm a numbers guy by background. And so it's like, what do you mean people aren't making money? They aren't, right? So I literally looked up something here. I'm in perplexity here. Entrepreneurs earn on average, this is average, not median,
Yep.
which means it's way lower just to folks. Okay. For those who are familiar, median is the middle number of the people versus average. The average is $49,489, which means that's $25 per hour working full time, which means that you can make it at any fast food restaurant in California.
Which means that it's not even 25 an hour because let's face it, when they're quote making that, they haven't even taken out their internet and their gas and all this other stuff, right? So I'm going to even say that the 49 is not really 49. And I have an exercise in my book where I did like what was my hourly rate and figure out how much I made. Oh, by the way, it was less than $5 an hour. And I was like, I instead of just going to McDonald's after every event because I'm like patting myself on the back and tired and stressed, I should freaking be working here because I'd have a shift meal. I'd probably have a 401k by now. I'd be like rock star. Okay. And yet I'm just slugging it out, looking like, oh yeah, I'm the party goddess. And I'm the party goddess digging myself into a very big hole. But you're right. It's I don't wanna say it is pathetic. I'll say it on behalf of myself. I felt pathetic, and a lot of people who are in that boat feel pathetic, but I don't wanna underscore that because, like, people who are in that boat, we already feel horrible enough. Like, we already feel in so much shame. Like, a lot of people leave corporate America to chase the entrepreneurial dream. It's post-COVID, right? Or it's you're a mom and your kids get to a certain point, now you're like, "Oh, I don't wanna be the corporate lawyer, I'm gonna do this." And but what happens is you get into you jump off this ledge and you think, "Okay, it's not gonna be that difficult." And then you just realize you are the HR department, the social media department, the photography department, the sales department, the operations department, the accounting department, blah, 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 and you're just like, "I'm drowning." And so that's why I wrote that book was to tell people, "Hey, first of all, I'm at the bottom of the lake with you, like, no problem. And if you wanna get out, there are ways."
Yeah. And you said something that was really good because it's hard for people to say. Super, once again, amazing, extraordinary. I mean, and I mean this sincerely. You get a business to $1 million in revenue. That's not easy, right? Yeah, people are like, oh, it's easy. It's not.
It is not easy. Let me tell you, when you are, especially if you're thinking like you're in the cupcake business or you're in the, think about it. I mean, it's like cupcakes. Let's even today, they're $25 a dozen or whatever they would be. I mean, do you know what 25 or a dress or a shirt or a t-shirt business goes into divided by a million? That is so many units or so many hours of whatever. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I mean, thank you. It's so there's this huge, right. And but what you said, which is the real thing, which is the hardest thing here, is you feel shame, right?
100%.
It's almost like this feeling of that there's this lie that I've been living of like, hey, this is going on, and but you don't want anybody to look underneath the covers,
No.
right?
And you're scared by it's like to me, I almost think of it like I mean, I've never certainly committed a murder or anything like that, but I always think like with these people who they're like, "Oh, they were on the run for 25 years, whatever." I'm like, every time they see a cop car behind them, like if they have a traffic like if they roll a stop sign, they must be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get caught." But that's how a lot of entrepreneurs feel, right? Because you feel like, "Oh my gosh," whether it's the accountant or my husband or my significant other, like, or the neighbor who thinks like, I have all these Instagram followers. And by the way, I think that's wonderful, but just having followers doesn't translate to a profitable business. But that's what so many people measure success on. It's like, oh, it used to be just a dollar amount. Now it's like follower count. And God forbid the neighbors find out that you're shooting all this stuff and getting 10,000 likes and you freaking have no real business behind you. Or more importantly, too, at the end of the day, no business to sell. That's what really gets people too, is when they realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this work. And then there's no quote asset to sell at the end of the day because you are the asset.
That's right. Yeah, boy, you just said, and what you're talking about, the term, and this really applies, especially in your line of business, is vanity metrics, right? And I've got caught up in this too. There was a little while back, and I mean, I work at the small and mid-sized businesses, work in PE. Nobody's heard of most of the businesses I work with, right? It's the good old traditional small to mid-sized businesses, not exciting, not glamorous. And I was like, at one point, I'm like, I'm going to get quote unquote famous on it. And it was like, it was total vanity. It was silly. It was foolish. I'm not saying, once again, down the road, things might flip and go crazy and stuff like that. But when that was my goal, it was all ego.
And that's the slippery, slippery
Right.
slope. Because whether people believe in God or whatever they believe in, to me, that's the devil. It's like trying to catch a cloud. You will never, I don't care how fluffy it looks outside the plane window. You cannot put your arms around it. There is nothing there. And so you can get to this many followers and you can get to this and this and this. And I'm not saying don't try that, but try that and have something that counterbalances that, right? Like the followers, the number of hits, but with XYZ profit margin or with X, whatever the KPI is for you, something other than I'm chasing and trying to grab clouds.
Can you convert it?
Yeah, exactly. Can
Right.
you convert it?
It's can you have all this stuff and can you convert? Now, you and I both know this. It does help to some degree with getting sales, right? Meaning the branding core of it alone, right? Like I've benefited from my podcast, I've benefited from my book, I've benefited from these different areas around it. But the key but here is right. Well, I'll just do a simple example, right? There's some people who are like, that ask me, oh, how many books you've sold? I was like, well, first of all, it's way over average, but then it's
Yeah.
like, do you know what average is?
Yeah.
Less than 100 books.
Right. 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 Right.
So it's like, now we've sold way beyond that, but just to clarify,
Right. Of
but
course.
still not that much in the
Right.
big world of actually making money on books. But one client paid for all of my costs and a profit.
And you just hit the most important thing, which is the ROI. What is the ROI? Now people say, okay, you don't make money off of books, et cetera, et cetera. For the most part, you don't, unless you're Michael Crichton and, okay. But I think of it of books and branding and social media like this. When the supermarket used to advertise the eggs and milk in the supermarket and the newspaper are X price to get you in the door. They are your lead generator. You walk in the supermarket to get the eggs and the milk because supposedly they're cheaper over there. Then guess what? You get the magazines, you get all these other things. It's the lead generator, and then it converts you and get in the store and you're like, oh, I kind of like this store. Okay, great. You become a customer and you sell all this extra stuff. So you're right. One person from a book, one person from 10 social media posts. However, you have to have the strategy and the plan behind that in the first place. And it's not that it's rocket science. You just have to say, and by the way, it's also not that every activity has to produce something, right? Or we wouldn't have charitable events. We wouldn't have it isn't, but you have to decide that. You have to be like, I'm going to post on social media because I love posting on social media and I love this and I love the creativity and I love, interacting with my audience. But then you got to realize if you're not going to try to convert those people, then you got to spend your other time really converting people. And you have to have
Yes. Yes.
it has to be
Yes.
purposeful. You
Yeah.
can't just
Yeah.
go, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing today. No.
Yep. So we hadn't had the conversation, but I'm just guessing.
Mhm.
California, COVID, catering, not good, right?
No, not good. Not good.
Just collapse, right? Just like
100%. Just like like a Yorkshire pudding or whatever that thing, or souffle. Bye bye. Yeah.
and this is what we weren't alone, like meaning people had multiple different businesses. I had an interesting situation. And in that period of time, we were giving 10, we opened in January 2020 for the strategy. So, and I was really fortunate, literally 2 months and 3 months in, making making real money, grossing more money than I ever had in my life. So great start. Very grateful.
You're
Then
the only
COVID
person on the
hits.
planet that did that. Yeah. Okay.
Then COVID hits. None of my clients are in the Portland area.
Hmm.
I have to fly to all of them. I can't get on an airplane, right? Can't get an airplane. It doesn't exist. There's no airplane opportunity.
Hmm.
So part of our original process and our long-term goal is to give, we give money to charity. We were giving 10% of our revenues to charity. Okay. So let's fast forward to about May. I was giving more in charity than I was making in revenue because my revenue had gone down 90%. Okay. Right. And I remember getting down, literally literally
Yep.
getting down here, like, yes, I'm a man of faith. I get down praying, like, all right,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen next year, right? But like, I'm going to let go in this. Now, what was interesting was because I think I faithfully continued to give and went through a process of I'm not going to quit. It was interesting. Like literally went through, I was willing to travel when people weren't in that period of time,
Yep.
and my business flourished,
Hmm.
but I was willing to take risk. I was willing to do things in different areas. But why I'm just mentioning all this is that we're all going to hit these like crazy difficult
Yes.
points. But somebody said something really interesting. And once again, this is the time. Remember, everyone's like finally learned how to use Zoom. Like, it's like everyone finally learned how to use Zoom and do these things.
Hilarious.
Like,
Yeah.
it took a while. Like, hey, you actually turn it on here. Here's the volume. Here's
Right.
the mic.
And you're like,
Like,
here. And then you're
yeah,
like, oh, hi, your camera's on. You're not
right,
quite dressed yet.
right, right. It either would be in their armpit, like the
Right.
picture. It's just
Right.
like, it took a while. But once I got there, and I remember, so everyone was on things and watching things. But I remember somebody said something really good. They said, just add value, right? And that little piece there, we forget when we're doing social media.
Yeah.
We forget when we're doing vanity stuff. It's like, is my product or service that I have creating value for consumer where they're willing to
Right.
part with their hard-earned
Right.
money to
Right.
buy your product or service?
Right.
And when you figure that out, that's the beginning of making real money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to say one of the next steps to making real money is when you say, okay, are they going to get value? That's obviously super important. But then what I like to think about too is what is high value to the customer that's low cost to me, whether it's
Mm,
time or money. So whenever you get in, or not whenever, I mean you can, but when things get really like you get in a cash crunch, you are over leveraged, your customers, I don't know, it's a seasonal time. There's all kinds of reasons, right? Why the money might not be coming in. But that's when I kick in with what can I give them that is so valuable to them, but to me, like cost me nothing. So I think whether it's time or money. So for example, a celebrity could that I'm just going to make a basic example. A celebrity's face or action is people pay. So those apps came out, right, where the celebrity would do the shout out or something. So and here's all this stuff, right, where Justin Bieber now has money trouble and sold his record collection. This is why. Well, the one thing that Justin Bieber could do, right, is you do a hey shout out Justin Bieber, and I don't care if he gets $100 and blah 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 blah. Very, very low cost to him, high value to the consumer. And there are so many ways we can do that. We can say, hey, listen, get our product and you get this, you do a collab with somebody, right? Where they toss something in, or another coach or another whatever service provider adds something in that you're like, wow, that's worth it, right? Like, yeah, I will fly on this airline because guess what? I just got this promo thing and I'm going to get upgraded and I'm going to get, so it's like, what is what and you have to keep thinking about that and really keep it in the forefront of like your business strategy, I think.
No, this is brilliant. Actually, this message that you're saying, the value, once again, you go so many organizations, so many people, they sell their product or service based on a cost plus mentality,
Exactly.
right? I'm going to cost, I need to make 50% margin or 70% margin, whatever the target is.
Yes.
That's meaningless. That number is a meaningless number. The only thing that matters is what is somebody consistently willing to pay for it. That's the value of the product or service you have. And I'm sure you have this as you're talking with entrepreneurs and business owners, et cetera, that when you're consulting them. But it's I'll just say it, what is one of the first things you have to do when you're working with somebody?
Like if I'm working with a new client,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's their goal? What are they trying to accomplish?
And the next part is with the pricing, you got to raise your prices.
I mean, yeah. Yes,
Right?
correct. Yeah.
Right? Because they're doing it based on their cost or their perceived value of themselves. Right?
Which is, by the way,
Yeah.
never what it should be. It's either usually one extreme or another, right? They think they're like should be charging $10 billion an hour, and you're like, yeah, not so much. Or they have this whole shame thing that they're carrying on this jacket of shame. And then they're like, well, nobody's going to pay for that, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, wait a minute. Who said that? Like, is this all part of what you're telling yourself? Or, right. But you've got to raise your prices. But the thing about how you raise your prices is like you become the expert in your field, right? You have that unique selling proposition. You have that secret sauce that somebody else doesn't have. Like if I say to you, I'm in the supermarket and I say, oh, here's $100 bottle of water. You're like, that's the dumbest thing ever. There's a million other bottles of water I can get for $2. But you're in the desert, you're about to, whatever, stroke out. Somebody says, here's $100 bottle of water. You're like, I will take, it's a no brainer. Yeah, exactly. I'll take 2. I'll take 12, in fact, while you're riding by here on your camel, no problem. But the point is it's all about what is your secret sauce or your positioning? How badly does somebody want it? Right. In the days of like COVID, if you're sick with COVID and somebody said, I'm going to give you a miracle shot and you're going to feel better in like an hour, you're not going to have to wait the 2 weeks. You're not going to get long COVID. You're not going to do whatever. I mean, people would be borrowing against their houses. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to keep thinking about that is how can you make it? How can you be that water bottle in the desert that somebody says, I don't care. Whatever I need to do, that's what
I love this. I don't know if you follow. I'm going to shout out to somebody I don't even know personally, but he's great. Alex Ramosi. He's fun to follow if you follow him. But what you're saying is one of the things he says. He said is, look, if you're going to, you say, where are you going to open up a restaurant? You're like, oh, I'm going to open up in a busy street, or I'm going to open up next to a McDonald's, or whatever it is, right? They're going to like, no. Open it in front of a starving crowd.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Because then, and now this is the part where ego comes in again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use myself as the personal example here again. I'm a CPA by thing, a boring CPA by trade. I have been intentionally hiding that I've been a CPA for about a decade because it was a strategy. Because if you think CPA, you think you're going to work on something like their taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not good for strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just it doesn't work. Now, this is the funny part, right? There's a massive shortage of CPAs now, starving crowd.
Exactly.
We are serving clients and we're growing like crazy right now because we have a starving crowd. And I had to swallow my perceived ego, perceived pride, and I'm happy. It's funny. I'm actually back to where my roots are.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing it, but I was doing it quietly, but now we're open doing it, right? And we're growing like crazy as a result. But why? Starving crowd, right?
Yep. And
and you have to swallow your ego of like, I'm not going to sell this or that. It's like, why wouldn't you sell a product service in front of a starving?
well, right. One of the things I say is that we all build our businesses, not all, most of us build our businesses backwards, meaning we build, I'm good at blah, 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 instead of don't forget about it, but what does the customer want versus what do you want to give them? It's different. It's like, oh, I'm going to sell only healthy food and blah, 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 at McDonald's, let's say. But the customer of McDonald's wants the garbage. So I'm not saying you can't give them some healthy stuff, but Americans, at least a lot of them, want to eat and are okay being overweight, right? Like there are consequences there. So you can say all day long, well, we should do this, we should exercise more and drink more water and eat more fruits and vegetables. It's not happening. I don't know if it's the messaging, I don't know what it is, but it is not happening. Okay. So it's want versus need. And it's also continuing to focus on what does the consumer want? Like, and how is that changing, whether it's COVID, a recession, and anything. And I'm not surprised at all about the whole CPA thing and how you're crushing it. I've said from day one, a great bookkeeper is one of the hardest things, the most impossible things to find. A really good one, not one that, one that actually knows what they're doing. And the other thing too about being a CPA is, yeah, you have to think critically. You have to put time in to get actually the CPA license and pass it and all that stuff. People don't, they're looking for the quick fix these days. And actually having attention to detail, which is what bookkeeping at the lower level, and then obviously heading up, people just don't have it. They're in a rush. They don't understand it. You've got to then roll in their tax implications, being a CPA and all these other things. And it's hilarious because two of the most expensive things are, one is getting divorced without a prenup. And the second one is not having a good CPA, because it's like, okay, how much is the guy going to cost or the woman going to cost for the year? Oh, no, I'm going to do my own tax. I'm like, unless you're rolling a shopping cart down the street, that is pretty stupid, because the CPA all he has to know is one change in one law, or all he has to ask you is, did you deduct X, Y, Z, or did you, and your whole financial picture changes. So yeah.
It's fascinating, super fascinating. All right, so let's what when people have read your book, what is the big aha moment that they typically come out of it?
Well, the big aha, a couple of them. One, they're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing is, first, it's like, okay, you're not alone. You're not an idiot, or you wouldn't have picked up a book like this to start with to actually try to fix it. And there's hope because you picked it up and are trying to do something different. Okay. So that's kind of, I'm going to bundle that all like in the one piece. There's hope. And then the second aha moment is what I preach, which is, it is all about, period, end of subject. Because we don't, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as even executives, I can make more money all day long. I can never make more time. I'm going to make the argument, if I meditate, we can expand time, you blah, 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 blah. Okay. But let's just say I cannot get more time. But if I can continue to track my time and continue to improve my efficiency, whether that's with AI, whether that's with hiring somebody at $20 an hour, $25 an hour to do something, so that for that hour, I can do something like sending out my email newsletters, or I can do a podcast for an hour. That's where, because it's the money between the wallpaper and the wall in small business, and anything you can do to increase that space between the wallpaper and the wall. And that's usually by leveraging your time. And if we just keep focusing on, how do I spend my time? How do I spend my time? How do I spend my time? Now we're going to get some.
Darren Hardy, who is also, well known small business, small mid-sized business consultant. One of the things Darren talks about is like, whatever, let's say, we'll use these simple numbers again. Somebody wants to make $100,000 a year. So that means that $50 an hour is basically, if you're working full time, is that number, which means that if you want to make more money, you need to do things that are above $50 an hour, and everything that's below it, assuming you're full-time work, right?
Absolutely.
You have to outsource, you have to have other people do it. What holds people back is like, well, I don't want to pay, let's use a bookkeeper example. I don't want to pay $500 or $600 a month to have a bookkeeper doing it. It's like, have you calculated, never mind the expertise part, never mind
Exactly.
opportunity
Just
from a tax
apples to
side.
apples, your time
Right.
versus, yes.
Right. Your opportunity to make more money. You should be shooting for doing $100 hour stuff,
Yes.
right? To
Exactly.
really get yourself to the next level, then 200 and 300, et cetera. It's like you want $1 million business, your time has to be equivalent to $500 per hour.
And by the way, you need to stop all of these driving to the networking thing, having lunch with somebody who wants to pick your brain, doing
Mm,
this, doing that. Now, purposefully, if you want to go have lunch, purposefully you want to network because you haven't been out and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just starving for people. I get it. But if you're going to go to a networking event where you're going to be there for an hour and a half, because so many people, it's like, this is the excuse. Well, I was networking, I was working, I was on social media. Okay. If you're going to go to the networking thing for an hour and a half and you're going to have half an hour drive time on either side, right? So now you got an hour and then you're there for an hour and a half and are everything's in the follow up. You'd be better being there for 15 minutes, right? And and then following up with like everybody, hey, connecting on LinkedIn, doing all these other things, but we don't do that because that takes critical thinking and a strategy. And then when somebody says, hey, I want to pick your brain, hey, I'm like, okay, who is it? Like, if my dad is saying, I need you to talk to this person as a favor, okay, well, that goes in another category, right? But if somebody just wants to pick and it's like, wait, how do I know you? Well, if they help get my kid into preschool, which is impossible, okay, maybe I'm also going to do that favor. But otherwise, it's like, okay, can give me the top 3 things you want to cover? Let's do it on a Zoom call. Lunch is way too valuable for me. Lunch is I'm giving away the farm, and if that makes sense, then okay, do it. But we have to keep thinking of what meeting do I not have to drive to? What lunch could turn into coffee? What coffee could turn into a Zoom? What questions could I pre-email to be, you see where I'm saying, where you're just like shaving time.
yeah, constant, continuously looking at all things. And then of course, let's not overstate it and let's talk it any more in the right now. If you're not using AI tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity, holy cow, right? This is the godsend for entrepreneurs,
Yes.
right? To be able to accelerate doing things where you don't have to hire a bunch of people to do things now.
Amazing.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And even if
And
you do have to hire somebody to do something, oh, by the way, ChatGPT will tell you exactly how to do it, where to put the ad and what traits you're looking for. Just saying.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, we use it regularly, consistently. It's just, I mean, I don't. What's Google?
Yeah. Dying on the vine, as far as I'm
Can you,
concerned.
Gary Vaynerchuk, we just listened to a thing, and we had 2/3 of the people that were stood up, and they were like, how many are using Google Ads right now? And then he asked the next question. He says, so how many are using ChatGPT, Perplexity to like do searches? And like 1/3 of the people raised their hand, and he said, wait a second. Look around, everybody was standing up. If you don't have a brand, you're not going to be discovered in the future. Right?
Right.
So you and I get this. Content and brand is why we're doing what we're doing today, because we're discoverable. We're discoverable. Marley found me through one of her podcast agencies that helped reach out to get connected to us. We have 1 to 2 a day that are people reaching out to be in the podcast. We have to go through. We have a filter process of going through this. That creates our brand, our knowledge, our information.
Absolutely.
It's our differentiator.
Yep.
We're searchable through Perplexity, through ChatGPT, through these other things that are happening right now. But folks, if you're not doing this stuff, you're going to fall behind, not be found, because your Google ads are going to be meaningless at a certain
Exactly.
point in the future.
Exactly. And I think this goes to, in the old days, it would always be about, you have to change with the market, and it would be kind of about what your consumers were doing. Like, your consumers getting older, how are their preferences? Now it's like you have to change with the market, but in this case, change with the tools so that you are changing so that, and it's the seeds we're planting right now are with chat GPT or AI, whatever, are miracle grown plants for the future, right? It is not now just like planting these little tiny things. Like, right now is the time to just plant, plant, plant. I don't like to say do most things haphazardly, but kind of in this way, it's like, just get into ChatGPT or something and start practicing. Start watching YouTube videos about how to do it. Just start Googling it until you're up to speed on how to do ChatGPT. But get in there and just start practicing, and then just continuously ask yourself, how can I leverage this every day? How can I leverage this for my business? How can I spend 10 minutes? And I'm like famous for putting freaking so many notes into ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, I like to do this and this and this. This is da 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 da. Here's the challenge. I mean, I give it like half a page But what I get out is literally like, do this, 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 this. And I always say, and by the way, what didn't I ask you that I should have? That's
Yep.
the other magic question. And
Yep.
that's when your world blows up because it goes, well, you didn't ask, but I would want to know. And you're like, oh my God, like, that's right. I'd want to know how much insurance they carry. And I'd want to make, and you're like, I can't believe I didn't, you know?
Yeah. So once again, folks, if you're listening to this and you're still using Google, stop. Just stop. Like I'm not saying I never use Google anymore, but
I
it's
get it.
so rare.
Right.
And it's like you can get the information without it being sponsored, curated content, which trying to send you information that you don't need. Right. This is getting closer. And you and I both know this. Hey, yes, it still makes things up, but not very much.
Well,
And
right. Exactly. It's getting
you
and
know,
that's why I say it's all this stuff is miracle grow. That stuff is getting cleaned up and it goes back to everything like you do in business. Listen, like, I mean, you're a numbers guy. Trust but verify. Even if the bookkeeper gives
right.
the CPA the stuff, you still dig in. You don't go, well, they gave it to me and the IRS is going to be like, well, I don't care. Did you look at the bank state? Did you kind of do a little quick and dirty? Verify what it's saying. And I'm also not saying I don't think you are either, that it's going to give you the whole roadmap. You got to still put your own thinking cap on.
Yeah, it's still going to
Use
be
it for
you.
ideas. Use it to
Yeah.
go, I didn't think of that. And then go down that rabbit hole. Just use it to like ignite your creativity or your strategy or get more efficient.
And little pro tip for anybody who's listening, the double hyphen, if you have that in any of your thing, delete it immediately because it's picked up as being AI driven. So little
I
pro
didn't even
tip
know
there.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So the double hyphen, nobody ever actually creates that except ChatGPT does. And so kill that from any content that you're creating because it'll be picked up and won't be searchable as much because it's known to be other AI created content.
Well,
So
there
anyways,
you
little all right. So, hey, Marley, we got to cruise in the last couple questions here
Yeah.
because we've been having too much fun.
Yeah.
How do you measure success in your business today?
Well, to me, I measure success based on, well, the big picture is I measure ultimate success on if my passive income is double my expenses, which
Mhm.
says a lot because the expenses are always, going up. But basically, I have certain profit margins set for anything I do. And I want to not only hit my sales goals these days, but I also want to hit my profit numbers, no matter what that is. And I'm always using those kind of KPIs as my dashboard.
That's awesome. Okay. What habits do you do consistently so you're bringing it every day?
I have to work out outside, preferably like do my hike. There's something about, I think it's a Leonardo da Vinci thing about the blue sky and the oxygen and all that kind of stuff. So if I exercise outside, I'm great. Meditation must do. And, I have to eat pretty well. I'd love to eat cheeseburgers and cinnamon rolls all the time. I eat for more freaking salad if I ever see another salad, but I'm going to keep doing it. And yeah, but those basic things so that you have the energy and the enthusiasm, because what I find is if I don't exercise, I don't eat, then I start going down this rabbit hole of I can't do it. There's no way. It's impossible.
On the personal side, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but so how do you now measure success in your personal life?
If I can fit into my skinny jeans, number one. Number two, then I know I've been doing the other stuff. Number two is how happy my three kids are because, they say you're only as happy as your saddest child. So if things are going pretty well over there and I can fit into my skinny jeans, I know I'm on the right track.
That is awesome. That is one of the best answers I actually ever heard there. And I do appreciate having 4 kids. That is a bit of truth of my wife carries it honestly more than I do, but it's like it is it's a real thing.
Well, let's face it, like if one of your kids just broke their leg and your wife's like, I got to take them, and you're like, I got to take a podcast. I mean, your mind is just over
Yeah,
there. That's just how it
it's
goes.
gone. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone. How can people connect?
So
Learn more
the
about you,
best
what you're doing.
Yeah. So they can go to theprofitgoddess.com and they can get a free pricing report if they want to go theprofitgoddess.com/NYP, or they can find me on Instagram for at the Profit Goddess. That's probably the best and easiest.
Awesome. This has been fantastic. Marley, thank you so much for being part of the Measures podcast today. This has been a really fun episode.
Thank you for having me.
To everyone else who's listening, once again, why we continue to get great guests is because of people like Marley who come on and because you share, you like. This is a good story. I hope you picked up some really good insights on how to really think about how you should craft your business. and to really create real value, real authentic value, not vanity metrics, but the real type of things that's going to make a difference, not just in your business, but also in your life. When you help get rid of the shame, when you get rid of the garbage that's there, and you be really honest about how to create real value, it is life-changing. And then we hope what some of the insights we can use today will get there. So as we always like to say, wishing you the absolutely very best in measuring your success. Have a great day.